Peace and blessings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Old Pats Podcast. Man, it's been a long time, I feel like. Genuinely, I do feel like that. But yes, OP is short for overpowered, and that's not because I am overpowered, but it is He, the Most High God, who is overpowered. Thank you for joining me. I am your host, Brother Reggie Paige, and today's topic is going back to Booker T. Washington. So, in my opinion, I think the system that we choose to determine a career for ourselves and others is all backwards. I think it is a bit more stressful to low-key make children wait until their late teens or in their 20s to determine or give them ideas of what it is that they want to do with their lives. I do understand that there are people who may fall into their careers later in their lives, and you see this, mainly probably like in the entertainment field, like Viola Davis, who didn't get her first big time gig until like she was like 40 and stuff. But more times than not, I've met many people who are in their 50s and 60s who do not know what they really wanted to do and feel like they wasted a lot of time. In my opinion, the fault is in both parents and teachers. Parents and teachers are to be a guide for individuals on their life's journey. And instead of molding that individual into being what the teacher or parent wants them to be, they should spend more time trying to bring out that gift or gifts that God has given that individual. See, God has given every man a gift, and that gift is not solely to serve your own selves. The gift that God has given to every man and woman is for the purpose of glorifying God and serving their neighbor. This is a principle Booker T. Washington preaches in talking about an education that actually educates. He states in a speech to his students at Tuskegee, "We are trying to turn out men and women who are able to do something that the world wants done, that the world needs to have done." Sadly, what many people that I've come around is that they simply want to just make money. That is a very shallow goal and mindset. When someone tells me that, it's like someone telling me that they want to have an apple tree just to have apples. Well, duh. The whole point of working a job or career is to make money. Making money is just natural, just like an apple tree growing apples is natural. That's not really a goal. Why? Many people would love to make money. In the Bible, God states in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12, "For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it." So money is not bad. The love of money, aka greed, is bad. So if you're just here to make money, then you'll be very capable of doing things that may be morally horrific, such as pimping, prostitution, stripping, dealing drugs, being a hitman, etc., 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 etc. But this makes me go back to the main point that teachers and parents, even before their children enters college or that age, 17, 16, 17 years old, when they're at that age of thinking about college, we should be trying to manifest those gifts and talents that may be hidden within that individual. Our society will benefit better if people are actually exercising those talents and gifts within their jobs or career. The reason why is because people will have a purpose in life and fulfillment in life that simply just trying to make money won't satiate. This is where education comes in. And education should develop those gifts and skills within an individual. However, like in my previous videos, I've stated, an education is not solely attained in the classroom setting. So far as real education, so far as development of the mind and heart and body are concerned, it is simply impossible to learn everything you need to know about life in traditional classrooms. When we think of school, some of us nowadays blame the school systems for not teaching us to pay bills or to be hospitable at home. Most traditional education institutions typically will not find it a need or less of high importance to teach things such as using and developing your talents and gifts through serving and ministering. You may learn a different method of doing things compared to how a traditional education from a school would teach you. Many schools from my personal experience and from what other people tell me, would teach you one method and proclaim it as the so-called universal method of doing things. However, when you are serving and ministering your fellow men, you will realize that there's a lot of nuance on exercising those gifts and talents God has given you. For example, one of the gifts that God has given me is the gift of the culinary arts. Through working in restaurants and cooking for church and family events, I've learned that cooking is a service of something that people actually need. Everyone needs food to eat, and I need to learn how to create a hospitable experience when someone eats any of my meals. That, in fact, is much more fulfilling than just learning recipes in a French kitchen. In fact, in cooking, I've learned that food is a love language. One of my favorite memories was cooking a private anniversary dinner for a couple at my church in early January of this year. To this day, they still remember and bring up the experience that has, from their own mouths, helped their marriage grow. It is simply because I didn't think of my gift as a thing just to show off how good my food is. Like, you'll go on Instagram and you just see people doing cooking videos just to show off, oh, look what I can cook. You really don't even know if it's good or not. Now, I know my food is good, but I didn't want to just show off my gift. I did not want to show off that I can cook. I know how to cook. In fact, I found to use my gift as an opportunity to help my brother and sister in Christ grow in love with each other and create lasting memories that will keep them married no matter what they went through. That whenever they went through a hard time, they can go back to this memory and say, you know what? Let that bring us together and help us through this hard and trying time in their marriage. Through service, you actually have a chance to not sit and theorize your gifts and talents, but you are able to exercise and develop that gift and talent the Most High has given you. As Booker T. Washington states, it is a great satisfaction to have connected with a race of men and women who are able to do something, not merely to talk about doing it, not merely to theorize about doing it, but actually to do something that makes the world better to live in, something that enhances the comforts and conveniences of life. The point is, through using your gifts and talents through service and ministry, it is a great way to develop and make life meaningful and comfortable for others and yourself. Secondly, you can gain education through observing your fellow man and nature. Booker T. Washington states in the same speech, I see more and more every year that the world is to be brought to the study of men and of things, rather than to the study of mere books. You will find more and more as the years go by that people will gradually lay aside books and study the nature of man in a way that they had never done as yet. See, when you understand your fellow man and the laws of nature within man and within the world, you will learn that life is much more complex than a methodology you learn in a simple classroom. You will learn that everyone is different, and within those differences, everyone has different likes and interests compared to yourself. You'll learn that the world does not revolve around you and that your way is simply at times just not the preferred way. The world can't be fully understood just by reading books. We need to directly experience people and things to gain true knowledge and wisdom. The best things in my life that happened to me was when I lived in China for a couple of years, learning the language and the culture. For those who don't know, I minored in Chinese in college. My Chinese understanding was minimal even as I studied in the classroom for 2 years. However, it wasn't until I actually went to China where my understanding and proficiency of the language improved significantly because I was immersed in the world of the Chinese people. I not only learned the language quicker, but I understood the language on a cultural level, just like how I understand the American English language on a deeper and cultural level. It also taught me to be a little less focused on myself and a little less close-minded and to be more open to others' point of views in life. This is why studying only books will take you so far. This does not mean you abandon school or books to study, but I want you to emphasize the importance of studying the nature of man, understanding human behavior, psychology, and how people interact with the world. This is simply a more hands-on, experimental approach to learning. It is a balance betwixt using books as a foundation, but also actively engaging with the world and its people to gain a deeper understanding of others, of yourself, and how to properly and wisely exercise those gifts and talents God has given you. And ultimately, the whole point of the gifts and talents that God has given you is not to bury it in the sand like the foolish man who had one talent in the parable of the talents. We use our talents to serve the one God that has given us the talents and to serve our fellow man, which ultimately will benefit the world around us as a whole, which includes ourselves in the world. It is, as Booker T. Washington would state, to put our education into tangible form. And now, without further ado, let us read the speech, Education That Educates, by Booker T. Washington. Education that educates. This talk was given soon after the visit of President McKinley to Tuskegee Institute in the fall of 1898. Perhaps I am safe in saying that during the last 10 days you have not given much systematic effort to book study in the usual sense. When interruptions come, such as we have just had, taking you away from the regular routine work and study, and the preparation of routine lessons is interrupted, the first thought to some may be that this time is lost, insofar as it relates to education in the ordinary sense, that it is so much time taken away from that part of one's life that should be devoted to acquiring education. I suppose that during the last few days the questions have come to many of you: what are we gaining? What are we getting from the irregularity that has characterized the school grounds within the last week that will in any degree compensate for the amount of book study that we have lost? To my mind, I do not believe that you have lost anything by the interruption. On the other hand, I am convinced that you have got the best kind of education. I do not mean to say that we can depend upon it for all time to come for systematic training of the mind, but so far as real education, so far as development of the mind and heart and body are concerned, I do not believe that a single student has lost anything by the irregularity of the last week or more. You have gained in this respect in preparing for the reception and entertainment of the President of the United States and his cabinet, and the distinguished persons who accompany the party. You have had to do an amount of original thinking which you, perhaps, had never had to do before in your lives. You have been compelled to think. You have been compelled to put more than your bodily strength into what you have been doing. You could not have made the magnificent exhibition of our work which you have made if you had not been compelled to do original thinking and execution. Most of you never saw such an exhibition before. I never did. Those of you who had to construct floats that would illustrate our agricultural work and our mechanical and academic work had to put a certain amount of original thought into the planning of these floats in order to make them show the work to do the best advantage. And 2/3 of you, yes, practically all of you, had never seen anything of the kind before. For this reason, it was a matter that had to be thought out by you and planned out by you and then put into visible shape. Now compare that kind of education with the mere committing to memory of certain rules or something which someone else thought out and executed 1,000 years ago, perhaps, and that is what a large part of our education really is. Education, in the usual sense of the word, is the mere committing to memory of something which has been known before us. Now, during the last 10 days, we have had to solve problems of our own, not problems and puzzles that someone else originated for us. I do not believe that there is a person connected with the institution who is not stronger in mind, who is not more self-confident and self-reliant so far as the qualities relate to what he is able to do with his mind or his hands than he was 10 or 12 days ago. There is the benefit that came to all of us. It put us to thinking and planning. It brought us into contact with the things that are out of the ordinary. And there is no education that surpasses this. I see more and more every year that the world is to be brought to the study of men and things rather than to the study of mere books. You will find more and more as the years go by that people will gradually lay aside books and study the nature of man in a way they have never done as yet. I tell you then, that in this interruption of the regular school work, you have not lost anything. You have gained. You have had in your minds awakened, your faculties strengthened, and your hands guided. I do not wish to speak of this matter egotistically, but it is true that I have heard a great many persons from elsewhere mention the pleasure which they have received in meeting Tuskegee students, because when they come in contact with a student who has been here, they are impressed with the fact that he or she does not seem to be dead or sleepy. They say that when they meet a Tuskegee boy or girl, they find a person who has had contact with real life. The education that you have been getting during the last few days, you will find as the years go by, has been of a kind that will serve you in a good stead all through your lives. Just in proportion as we learn to execute something, to put our education into tangible form, as we have been doing during the last few days, in just the same proportions will we find ourselves of value as individuals and as a race. Those people who came here to visit us knew perfectly well that we could commit to memory certain lines of poetry. They knew we were able to solve certain problems in algebra and geometry. They understood that we could learn certain rules in chemistry and agriculture. But what interested them the most was to see us put into visible form the result of our education. Just in proportion as an individual is able to do that, he is of value to the world. That is the object of the work which we are trying to do here. We are trying to turn out men and women who are able to do something that the world wants done, that the world needs to have done. Just in proportion as you can comply with that demand, you will find that there is a place for you. There is going to be standing room. By the training we are giving you here, we are preparing you for a place in the world. We are going to train you so that when you get to that place, if you fail in it, the failure will not be our fault. It is a great satisfaction to have connected with a race of men and women who are able to do something, not merely to talk about doing it, not merely to theorize about doing it, but actually to do something that makes the world better to live in, something that enhances the comforts and conveniences of life. I had a good example of this last week. I wanted something done in my office which required a practical knowledge of electricity. It was of great satisfaction when I called upon one of the teachers to have him do the work in a careful, praiseworthy manner. It is very well to talk or lecture about electricity, but it is better to be able to do something of value with one's knowledge of electricity. And so on as you go on, increasing your ability to do things of value, you will find that the problem, which often nowadays look more and more difficult of solutions, will gradually become easier. One of the cabinet members who were here a few days ago said, after witnessing the exhibition which you made here, that the islands which this country's had taken into its possession during the recent war are soon going to require the service of every man and woman we can turn out from this institution. You will find it true, not only in this country, but in other countries, that the demand will be more and more for people who can do something, just in proportion as we can, as a race, get the reputation which I spoke to you about a few days ago. You will find there will be places for us, regardless of color or condition. The world is going to give the place of trust and remuneration to the men and women who can do a certain thing as well as anybody else or better. This is the whole problem. Shall we prepare ourselves to do something as well as anybody else or better? Just in proportion as we do this, you will find that nothing under the sun will keep us back. And hey, that's just a low down gospel truth. Thank you for watching. We'll continue next week, God willing, if the creek don't rise. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and share the knowledge with your folks and kin folks. And don't be afraid to, throw in the love offering in the Cash App below. And remember, the truth shall make you free. May the God of all knowledge have mercy and grace upon you all. Peace.